Let's get heady. Okay. So, as above, so below. When you change something on, say, a lower plane, it will affect things on all other planes. Say a lower plane like physical matter, and then a higher plane like thought or the psyche. So, say for example, you change the colors or the brand of a company, or say like the mascot. Then that change will then affect the way that people see the brand. When you think about astrology, the grand big planets, their positions and whether they're retrograde, what sign they're in, that kind of macro affects the micro of the personality of the person born and what their life is going to look like, if you believe in astrology. I do. So, speaking of brands, there is a physical, like, illustration or drawing that can be called a sigil. And it can be anything. It can be a symbol that is ancient. It can be something that you just made. And you can put in your intention into that physical symbol. And that will in turn alter things. You can program it however you would wish to program it. As above, so below can also be explained like in computer programming. So you program with your JavaScript or whatever. I don't know the languages nowadays, but you program that and it affects what happens on the monitor. So it seems, maybe to someone who doesn't understand computers, that they would be completely unrelated. But since you know, as above, so below, and as below, so above, as within, so without, then you understand that these things are all related. Within my work specifically, I know that each of my pieces has an effect that I might not be aware of. I have an intention for the piece, I have an intention for the work that I'm doing, and I understand that it's going to affect the macrocosm in ways that I cannot know. And within art, this can be used in the opposite way. So as above, so below, as within, so without. If you were to draw something like a character and give it a story, that would be directly related to your psyche and your belief systems at that time. So that's an example of as within, so without. There's a story about not psychoanalyst, maybe it is, but Carl Jung. He was analyzing this guy, and the guy was completely lying. Everything that he was saying in therapy, he was completely lying. And a few weeks or maybe months into therapy, Carl Jung knew this guy was lying. A few months or weeks into therapy, the guy who was supposed to be telling the truth, but he was actually lying, he says something and then bursts into tears. Because the concept is everything that you produce cannot be a lie, because it's telling your truth, whatever your truth is. You cannot lie to yourself, and it will come out. So he had reached this epiphany through lying, through telling a story, through making up some kind of story. That reminds me also of this concept that really freaked me out whenever I learned it. The concept is that everyone can see your shadow except for you. Everyone can see where your I don't want to say false lie, because there's nothing wrong with your shadow, or your dark side, or the parts of you that you don't want to see yourself. There's nothing wrong with that, but you cannot see it yourself until you're ready to see it, whereas other people can readily see it. That really freaked me out when I learned that. It's kind of a similar concept to like when you're a kid and your parents tell you that like they know what you're doing, or maybe they don't tell you, but you get this feeling, and then you grow up and you realize, oh my gosh, like little kids cannot be that secretive. Like if you're paying attention to little kids, you know what they're up to. So yeah. So back to as above, so below, and putting your intention into like an illustration or a drawing or a sigil. You put your intention into something like that through the power of the imagination, which is the creative power or your creativity. When you put your intention, your creativity into something, and it manifests physically, mentally, intellectually, relationally with someone else, when it manifests, you have just created something new from your imagination. And that ties into the concept of all is mind. All is, you can think about it as all that you perceive, you feel, you sense has to come through your physical senses and goes into the dark hole that is your skull, and you're mixing up those sensory inputs into your experience. And so we can't really be sure if anything is real past our mind. That's one way of explaining it. There's so many. But I really like to think about as above, so below as a way of externalizing that all is mind and taking control of life or your circumstances or your business or the outcome of your comic book or your art, your expression, your creativity, your human essence. Because in essence, we are all creators. That's what we do all the time, all day. We think, we problem solve. And as above, so below, as within, so without, is, in my opinion, a way of explaining that. It explains a lot of other things as well, but it really does explain that we are beings that choose, we are beings that create, we are beings that change the outside, we change our inside, we grow, and we do it together. And so I am so happy that you wanted to spend your time with me talking about this, and I'll see you in the next one, or you'll see me. Bye.